It depends on your taste in movies, but this movie is like really bad taste. Like, it's the worst. This is a very offensive, sick, disgusting movie.
But you also have to find the humor in it, too, you know. Hello and welcome to another episode of Frightfully Forgotten's Trash or Treasure. But before we get started, what are we drinking?
Today we're having another Blake's Gold Belgian Blonde.
All right.
Today is a review of 1996's The Ebola Syndrome, and this was a request from Dustin Horn, who's one of our patrons on Patreon. If you would like us to review a movie of your choice, feel free to join us on Patreon.
The Ebola Syndrome was directed by Herman Yau. Anthony Wong was in this, and he was in a really wicked action movie, Hard Boiled.
Oh, one of John Woo's best. No one ever reloads their guns.
Yeah.
The Ebola Syndrome starts off in Hong Kong, 1986. We're introduced to Kai-san, and he is fooling around with his boss's wife while he's gone for the day. And it's this weird, awkward kind of sex scene. There's
2 slow strokes, 3 fast. 2 slow, 3 fast.
All these weird commands and instructions he's giving her. What kind of fun is that? To remember all these numbers and everything. Like, her daughter's like outside of the house, like kind of listening and hearing all this stuff, just kind of waiting. Well, who shows up with a bunch of his lackeys is her husband. Well, no, she asked me for it. And she blames him, right? She starts blaming Kai. Oh no, he forced me. The husband and his boys, well, they beat the shit out of Kai. Then they make her like take a leak on him, pull out these shears, and they're kind of giving him Kai and tell him to cut off his own wang. And he's about to do it, and then he starts like killing everyone with these shears. Crazy scene. Is a bloodbath. He kills the husband by putting his head in the legs of this table and like closing the table legs on him. He starts smacking around the wife of the husband, cuts her tongue off. Then the daughter comes in. He starts dousing her with gasoline.
That's crazy.
Pulls out this lighter. He's about to like set her on fire, and some schmuck walks in and catches him. And he's like,
"I'm killing her. Is there a problem with that?" Like, what? Yeah.
Yes, there's a problem with that, and there's a problem with everything that's happened here. Then he kind of flees the scene.
Flee!
It then jumps forward 10 years, and we find out that he has fled to South Africa, and he's working in a Chinese restaurant in like Chinatown. Boss and his boss's wife are always busting his balls.
Yeah, why don't you move quicker, you cocksucker?
Your wife's always busting my balls. He's like obsessed with having his balls busted. By chance, Lily, who's the little girl from the beginning of the movie who almost got set on fire, is on a trip with her boyfriend, and they happen to go to this Chinese restaurant, and she bumps into Kai, and she smells him. She recognizes him by his smell. She smells the blood, right? And starts throwing up in the bathroom and tells her boyfriend later, is like, "I think this is the man who killed my parents." And he's like, "Well, how could you know that?" Kai's boss, who runs this Chinese restaurant, is a real cheapskate. He doesn't want to buy the good meat. He drives all the way out to some weird Zulu tribe with Kai to bargain these shitty, disgusting, rotten pigs. Ritual happening. There's all these dead bodies. The people are dying of some plague.
They're all bloated up and all these sores and shit.
And he buys these pigs off this guy, and they're like sitting next to all these dead people.
So they end up crashing the truck because Kai is a shitty driver. He's like, "What the fuck you doing? Can't you drive?" He's like, they get into this argument. He's like, "Well, fix the truck yourself." And Kai takes off, and he sees this like Zulu tribeswoman, and she's on the ground, and she's like convulsing and sick.
Jesus.
I better take advantage of this. And he all rapes this Zulu woman while she's sick.
He's fucked up.
And she ends up, like, puking, like, spewing right in his face. All this weird shit. He goes back to the truck, and by this point, the boss has fixed it. Kai starts preparing dishes, and he ends up cutting his thumb. Some of the blood gets on the dish, and he ends up serving the dish to, like, all these patrons. Then he collapses, like, in the middle of the restaurant, and everybody's like, oh, it's okay, keep eating, everybody keep eating, it's fine. It's like, man, I'd be out of there.
Yeah,
it's like, fuck this. The doctor comes down, calls the boss down to his office.
So we're in there. Put on this mask.
Yeah, don't touch anything.
Yeah, don't touch this.
Kai has the Ebola virus. While the boss is at the doctor's office, his wife at the restaurant is phoning like some mob guy or whatever to like haul Kai away into the forest so he can die. Like, I don't want him here anymore. Haul him away and kill him. Kai hears that, and he kind of wakes up out of his stupor, and then he's all fine.
Because he's immune to the Ebola.
Yeah, he gets, like, immediately gets immune to the Ebola virus, attacks the wife. Her husband comes home. Then they have this great big fight.
Puts all those toothpicks into his face first. For super long.
He ends up finally having his way with the wife. And he ends up killing her with this table. He, like, lifts the table end up and crushes her head with the table.
Crazy.
It's an insane scene. And then, like, one of the restaurant helper guys all comes to the restaurant. What's going on? Oh! And he all slips on the blood and dies. Kai has to do something with these bodies. So he starts cutting off all the limbs, and you see him, like, falling off the table, you know, as he's cutting them. Grinds all the meat up, and he makes these African pork buns out of the meat.
That scene is hilarious. The laziest fucker on the planet. He hates working.
Yeah, he's always bitching.
Always bitching. But man, does he work hard to get rid of these bodies, to make all this good food and all these patties, delicacies.
Yeah, and everybody loves them too. They're all munching them down, like, oh, these are great.
But he's also spreading the Ebola virus.
That's right.
He's spread it to all these people now.
Kai ends up uncovering this secret stash of money that the boss had hidden away. And he's all rich, and it's not even that much money. Like, when he dumps it on himself, it's just a little
A couple
bit.
of bills.
He ends up taking off to Hong Kong. Sick disguise with that mustache and those glasses.
And the hat.
He starts living the high life in Hong Kong. He gets all these women and everything, and
Prostitutes.
he's like, I'm out of supplies.
Don't we need condoms? Here's money. Get them after.
Yeah.
After
the fact. Kai is starting to spread the Ebola virus around Hong Kong. We see him, like, going to restaurants, and he's sneezing in people's faces, and then, like, he's all wiping his nose with that shirt and everything. Some asshole.
And all these people in the hospital all dying. And
Yeah. In the streets,
all these,
too.
All these convulsions.
The cops are struggling to find out where patient 0 is at. And that's where we're gonna end the plot. So if you want to see what happens with Kai and with the Ebola virus, keep watching the Ebola Syndrome.
The treasure for Ebola Syndrome.
Oh man, okay, so just to start, it's a unique movie to say the least right off the bat.
It defies any genre. Like, where I was watching, like, what is this?
Yeah, you're not quite
What
sure.
genre? Is it comedy? Is it horror? Is it like, I don't know. Like, it's fucked up.
But it kind of plays into how fun the movie is, though, too, right?
Yeah.
Because it's so wacky and off the wall. I think it's more of a comedy than anything, right? I think that's kind of what they're driving towards.
It's a very fucked up comedy. It's like it's a comedy that's pushing the boundaries as far as they can push.
That's right, yeah. The dialogue, right? There's a lot of, like, weird, funny dialogue. You know, it's like, well, I'm killing her. Is that a problem? Like, yeah, it's a problem. But
Yeah.
it's supposed to be like, it's supposed to be funny,
Yeah.
zany.
It's but it's so awkward too, because like all those weird awkward sex scenes is like, it's funny but it's awkward, you know, like "Ah! Ah!" like whatever that is. Ah!
Then Kai is all listening and he takes all that pork meat and he all masturbates with it. And then he puts it back in like the general,
Yeah.
like the shit to be served.
So it's like the raunchiest comedy you'll ever watch in your life, because it's really like, it's going as far as you can go.
Yeah.
Like, even for 1996, like, fuck.
Yeah.
This is out there.
That's right.
Another treasure is like the main character, Kai. Basically drives the whole movie, right? It's all based around him, but he's an interesting character in a way, because he's the biggest asshole on the planet. Like, he's the worst human being there is.
Yeah.
But he is the only person who's immune to this virus
It just so happens
that he's spreading at the same time.
Yeah.
So it's like,
It's ironic.
it's
right?
very ironic. That's where the comedy comes from, right? Is that ironic thing that he's spreading this virus by doing the worst things on the planet. But he's also kind of oblivious.
Yeah.
He doesn't know until the end where they're like, you're patient zero.
He starts
Dude,
spitting.
he's like spitting at all these people.
He's a real
The
asshole.
worst person.
The sound design for this movie is really good too. It really makes you feel unsettled, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of squishing and chewing and crunching and like all this shit that has to do with like infections and people getting sick, right?
And it does a good job of making you feel gross, right? and it's supposed to do that, right? And the effects are great. Like, come on, like the gore, the blood, the severed limbs,
Yeah, they do a good job, you
the
know.
crushed heads. All that crazy shit is really good in this. The trash. Did they even shoot sound on set? Like, it's kind of distracting that it doesn't even look like that they are speaking the way they're speaking in their own language.
Right, yeah, it's weird.
So I didn't watch it with like English dubs. I watched it with the original dialogue, and it's off.
Yeah. So it's off-putting, right? The dubbing for Kai too is odd. Makes him sound like a moron, which is actually kind of funny.
Like, he sounds like a donkey. Like,
Sounds like a loser.
yeah,
you
which
know?
he is, the biggest loser on the planet.
That's right.
The biggest issue that I had with Ebola Syndrome, besides the fact it's completely fucked up, is
Off the wall.
the pacing was really weird. Like, it was just too much dead space. Yeah, we had all this funny dialogue, and we're just gonna put it in these scenes that don't mean anything, that don't move the plot.
Yeah.
It's just there to be funny with nothing to do about anything.
Right, there's nothing behind it.
Nothing behind it. Like that whole drive to the Zulu tribe. It's like super long, and there's all this like funny dialogue, which isn't that funny. It's just there to fill space and to be funny. That whole subplot, Kai finds his old girlfriend, and they're getting back together, and it's like this.
You didn't need that.
It all goes nowhere, and it's all just like, we had funny lines we had to fit into a scene, so let's put them in these random scenes.
Yeah, yeah. They could have just had Kai out in the wild
Yeah.
getting everybody sick.
Yeah,
Right?
there's a lot of wasted time
Yeah, exactly.
in this movie. And wasted subplots, too, like the subplot with his ex-girlfriend, with the little girl, like, that goes completely nowhere. Like, you think that's gonna be his downfall.
Right.
And it goes nowhere. It depends on your taste in movies, but this movie is like really bad taste. Like, it's the worst. Like, if you're gonna make fun of something, it makes fun of all the wrong things.
Right.
It makes fun of raping, like, people who are dying. This guy does the worst things, and they're supposed to be funny.
Yeah.
And they kind of are, but at the same time, you're like, I kind of don't want to laugh at that.
Yeah,
you know?
kind of shouldn't be.
Yeah,
It's like, it's a double-edged sword kind
Yeah.
of movie, right? It's like, on one hand, you have all these things that you know they're intentionally trying to be funny, but on the other hand, it's like, yeah, You tug at your shirt collar, it's like, yeah.
Basically, what we're saying is this movie is not for everybody. I wouldn't recommend this movie to anyone who will get offended easily.
Right.
Like, this is a very offensive, sick, disgusting movie.
But you also have to find the humor in it,
Yeah.
too, you know? That's what would probably turn it around for you. If you can find humor in almost anything,
Yeah.
then I think you would probably like this movie.
Yeah, because essentially, I think at its heart, it's a comedy.
Right.
And that's what it's trying to be, is a comedy. And it, you know,
And it succeeds.
it
I think,
succeeds
you know?
for the most part, but it's like, it's not very polished as a comedy.
Yeah.
It's a very rough around the edges, fucked up comedy, to say the least, right?
So, what's the verdict? Trash or treasure?
It's gonna have to be treasure.
Yeah, I was gonna say that too, you know. I really enjoyed it.
Because there's nothing like it.
Yeah.
There's nothing like the Ebola Syndrome.
Yeah.
It's like, if you want to see something that's fucked up, watch Ebola Syndrome.
Yeah, if you can get past like all the cringeworthy kind of moments and see them in more of a comedic light,
Yeah.
you're gonna enjoy the movie a hell of a lot more.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, it's worth at least one watch, I would say.
It's not a movie for the woke generation, to say the least.
Yes, that's right.
It's for old fucks like us that grew up in the 90s watching Dead Alive and weird shit like that.
Yeah, we're already twisted,
Yeah.
so.
Twisted movie for twisted fucks.
And until next time, keep drinking.